one. Natalie Sullivan at the top, all 8-10 all second team, and Abby also. So here we go. Arkansas, number 4 national seed, St. Louis, first trip ever to the NCAA tournament. It was 1 year ago that they were in their league tournament. They got to the championship final and came up just short, and they sat in that pain for a little bit. They watched their opponents get the trophies on the field and promised themselves not only that they'd be back next year, but that they would win it all. They lost their first game of the conference tournament, 4 wins in a row, and here they are with a little bit of difficult travel along the way to get to the postseason, but nevertheless, very glad to be here.
Yeah, and just talking to them, you can just see the fight that they have, the belief that they have in one another, and ultimately, like, they were not ready for their season to end. They said in the press conference, we just are excited to have more time with our best friends.
1-2 to Sullivan on a 7-game hitting streak, and she goes down, chasing upstairs. Burnham starts off on a great note.
And I expect Burnham just to come right at these hitters, get ahead, and then try to make them chase like we just saw right there. Nice rise ball. Once you fall behind, you got to really make sure it's a strike.
Now Abby Ulsis, the sophomore second baseman from Fenton, Missouri. And what you'll see on this team a lot, they are very proud to wear St. Louis across the front of their jerseys, because majority of this team comes from, if you drew a circle that represented about an hour radius of this club, you get almost every player on the roster inside of that circle. Probably also need a protractor too, and I don't know where to buy one of those.
Well, they talk just about the pride about representing St. Louis and how much it meant to them, and you really felt that hometown, just that love and really that excitement to represent and to be here on the big stage.
The Bills winners of 34 games this year, second most in the history of the program. Drop in the dirt from Burnham. And the count 2-1 on Ulsis. 13 wins this year for Burnham, the freshman from Eugene, Oregon. Most by an Arkansas freshman since Mary Half back in 2017. Who's now on the staff for Larissa Anderson at the University of Missouri.
I think that's a big deal, you know, just the athletes that have played in this uniform and being able to follow in those footsteps and make a name for yourself. We've really seen Burnham do that as a freshman.
When you come to an SEC program, more often than not, the record books are going to be pretty stacked, so it's very hard to leave an imprint in year number 1. But she's the daughter of an All-American. Her mom, Kendall, did that back at Texas A&M back in the mid-90s. And the Aggies this year, every team but one in the SEC into the postseason field, and A&M the number 1 overall national seed for the first time. Ulsis has fouled away a couple and gets soft contact. Davison charges and flips, and just in time to get her fellow second baseman 2 down.
And the mixing speeds right here in the first inning, being able to show that you're going to have to make sure you're really seeing it out of her hand. You cannot try to time her up only on her hard stuff. You got to read when that changeup is coming.
This is the catcher, Abby Mallow, 368 hitter, 19 home runs and 80 runs driven in. Second most in the country, only behind Kat Rodriguez at the University of North Carolina. Congrats to the Tar Heels, back into the NCAA tournament field for the first time since 2019. They did fall today, though, against Ohio State, and Rodriguez did not drive in any of their 6 runs, so the gap is still just 3 for Abby Mallow, the biomedical engineering major with a 3.42 GPA. As if the stat line wasn't impressive enough. She is out in front there.
Yeah, that rise ball coming in hard up and in at your hands, mid-60s, and then just her pulling that string. It's a tough pitch to read out of her hand.
Trip to the plate here in the NCAA tournament, and their starting lineup is presented by Capital One. Well, it all revolves around Bree Ellis, a .475 average this year, 4th in Division I, on pace to easily be an Arkansas single-season record. The 2025 SEC Player of the Year, just the second to do that, and tied for the league's single-season home run record. And in the circle, the senior from Frankfort, Illinois, South Suburban Chicago, is Taylor Hockman, their leader in just about every important category.
Well, she is. She's thrown 182 innings for them, and she's going to work east to west. But we were talking to her, and it's her knuckleball that really kind of makes her stand out. I think she's going to have to really make that effective here to see if she can keep the hitters off balance. And at the end of the day, like, it's her mentality, that fight mentality. Coach just telling us how strong she is mentally.
Yeah, so it's not really a changeup. It's a knuckleball that she learned at about age 10 and has been throwing it ever since. So we'll see how that pitch dances here today against Courtney Deinfel's Razorbacks. Bottom of the first inning, their first postseason action. St. Louis in their history, and Arkansas looking to make it to the World Series for the first time. Third-year starter in center field, Reagan Johnson. She is a triple threat at the plate who can absolutely fly once she gets on the base paths.
Well, she's so fast and spent some time in track. I found out yesterday she was a state champion in 300-meter hurdles. So just even more impressed. We got a chance to talk to her, and really just has that attitude as a leadoff hitter to be the table setter on your team.
Well, she told us, too, that when she's in this leadoff spot, which is her responsibility, not only is she speedy, as you mentioned, 300-meter hurdle champion, 109 for 109 in stolen bases in her high school softball career, too, but she views her responsibility in this particular plate appearance. Sometimes it's seeing pitches, the other times it's getting on base. And an excellent job there from Natalie Sullivan in her 216th consecutive start out in left field to whip that ball back into the infield, because Johnson was absolutely looking for two.
Oh yeah, she's thinking two right out of the box, and she runs through the box. But she was telling us yesterday, she's not just trying to tap it, she's trying to hit it hard. And really nice shot past Johnson at third base, not able to get a glove on it. But I like the aggressiveness she was thinking too, but like you said, Sullivan kept her from that.
Johnson a threat to run over at first base. Now Reagan Kramer at the plate. And these two, we talked to both Reagans yesterday, neither of whom goes by Reagan, were an absolute hoot to talk to. Clearly they enjoy being friends with each other, being teammates with each other.
Well, and you really get to feel, as you talk to the athletes that make up these teams, just their personality and why it works so well. They talked about this team being the most competitive team they've ever been a part of, but they have fun with that competition.
1-1 to the Reagan, who goes by Jimmy, which goes back to about 7 years ago. She was trying out for a team wearing number 99. They knew somebody who was a number 99 who they used to play men's fast pitch with, so the nickname showed up, and it stuck. And Reagan Johnson over at first base goes by Johnny. Jimmy to shallow right field. On the move, Allie Marietta tracks that down. And we started today mid-afternoon here. This is game 2, but clearly you can see that the right side here at Bogle Park still difficult with the sun coming down into the second baseman, first baseman, right fielder's eyes, and the shadows, of course, a big picture as well, as Bree Ellis comes to the plate. So this, I think, is the biggest question of this game. How do the Billikens pitch to Bree Ellis?
Well, yeah, I think even if they are going to, you know, are they going to give her a chance to swing the bat? One of the things I love about Bree Ellis is she is waiting for a strike. She's not going to be overly aggressive. She's going to wait for her pitch still, so she has a great at-bat.
And there goes Johnson in the second base. She is 20 of 22 in stolen base tries this year. We asked her yesterday, well, what happened on the other two? No disrespect, just like, how did you actually get caught? Because of how fast she is. Such a great break there. She said one was a ball in the dirt. I took off, bad read. The other one just got a bad jump. Now the other 20, perfect. And it's 3-0 to Bree Ellis.
Well, and when you have speed like that gets on, like she is, a table setter, able to reach base safely, it gives you that option to be able to steal that base and now be in scoring position. That's where speed really, really can play a big difference, especially late in the season.
Never really much to wave the bat at there, so Bree Ellis takes the walk. She's over to first base, and it's first and second for Courtney Day. 26 home runs is great for Ellis. 16 by any measure for Courtney Day is also phenomenal. First-year transfer from the University of Texas.
Well, and you have a hitter like Bree Ellis, and that is where it's so important to be able to protect her. You want the hitters that follow her to be able to get the job done, and Day really is a great fit in that spot right behind Ellis.
And that's 6 straight now that have missed the zone. Ellis with the 26 home runs, Day with 16. 42 of the team's 70 home runs here in the 3 and 4 spots in the lineup.
You go through SEC play, and really it just prepares you so much for postseason because you've faced the best pitchers in the country, and so it allows you to be really picky as a hitter.
And Hockman walks 2 in a row. The bases are loaded now for Kaylee Wyckoff. Well, it was clear that pitching to Ellis, there was no intent of giving her anything to hit. The Day plate appearance was a little bit more nibbling, and now there is nowhere to put Wyckoff. Razorbacks right fielder with the bases full, 1 out.
Well, and this is where, again, all the expectation right now is on Arkansas to put up a bunch of runs, but you still have to be so picky. And we see Hockman, like you mentioned, just trying to nibble at the corners, right? Just trying to hit those spots. But these hitters, like, they're waiting for their pitch. And I think that's so important. You get into postseason, you don't want your adrenaline too big to start chasing anything. You just want to stay patient and really see it as well as you can.
And they know that the pressure is already mounting against Hockman. She's missed 9 straight pitches out of the zone. 4 pitch walks to Ellis today, and 1-0 to Wyckoff, the former Big 12 Freshman of the Year at Texas Tech in her first season here in Fayetteville. Wyckoff finally offers it one, and the count 2-2.
When Hockman using the corner, she's a curveball, screwball pitcher, so she really does work east to west. I think the key with that, with those pitches, is to make sure those are knee height. And we see her when she's missing, just missing off of the plate or a little bit too far inside.
Runners at every base. Johnson at third, Ellis at second, Day at first. And here comes Johnson in to score. Ellis is held up at third base. It's a line drive RBI single for Kaylee Wyckoff. Arkansas leads St. Louis 1-0.
And that's a nice piece of hitting. I think in this game one, you stay patient, you see what you get, you wait for that pitch, and it's inside. She's pretty close to the plate in this, and so she does a good job, doesn't try to overswing, but instead just meets it. You know, when they've faced really hard pitching, sometimes you get ahead of the pitcher that's not as fast. And so I think it's important not to overswing, right? Because you can tend to get a little bit bigger of a swing when the pitcher's not throwing as hard.
39th time now in 52 games, this being 53, that Arkansas has scored first and they've won 32 of those previous 38 games. It's a good formula for success. Ella McDowell, the third baseman, the sixth batter of the inning. Freshman this year was second team All-SEC. Year number 10 for Courtney Deifel, here turning this program around. A two-time SEC Coach of the Year, and has led them to 8 of their 14 all-time NCAA tournament appearances. And clearly has a patient lineup card today.
Yeah, and she knows what it takes. I love the fact that she's been on the biggest stage, and she's won it all when she was a player at Cal, and knows the feelings and emotions that these athletes are having when they step into the batter's box.
That's ball 4, and that is the second run for Arkansas. Give McDowell her 49th RBI of the year. That brings Ellis home. So in the history preceding Courtney Deifel, the first year of Arkansas softball was 1997. She's the all-time wins leader, and since her arrival, 5 40-win seasons, 5 of the 7 hosting regionals. They've gone to supers 3 times. But the last 2 years, their season has ended here in this round at this ballpark. So there is a real sense of determination with this squad this year. They were just antsy yesterday, saying we are ready to go. It kind of feels like the first week of the regular season, where all you want to do is just get out there and play. This is season number 2 of the year, regular season in the books.
Yeah, she said it felt so long of a week to get to this game, and they were just ready for the game to be here, you know. And I think there's a lot of that anticipation. You kind of check off the box of like, okay, we know postseason, okay, we're hosting, okay, let's go, let's get on the field.
20 balls, 9 strikes, a laser into center field. Day scores, Wyckoff on her tail. A great start for Arkansas, 4-0 in the first. Kennedy Miller drives in 2.
When you gotta love right now, right off the bat, all of these hitters are coming up and staying patient, waiting for a good pitch, and then they're not trying to do too much of it. This pitch was up, elevated a little bit, but you just see a calm, compact swing, and I really like what I see, because I think you might see their swing get a little bit bigger as they start to put a few more runs on the board.
Eighth batter of the frame, the shortstop, Atalia Rijo. 2 on and 1 down. Rijo gets caught up, checks her swing, and it is indeed a strike, 0-2.
See, she just gets just in front of that ball, a little bit of a break. That's the right call. There's that knuckleball for you.
Arkansas coming out of the SEC tournament, a couple of wins before they fell against Oklahoma. Knocked off Georgia 5-1, then Tennessee 6-1, and came up just short against Oklahoma 8-6 in the semifinals at Jack Turner Stadium in Athens, Georgia. The message that they left from that game with was to not let their foot off the gas. Scored early in that game against the Sooners, but as many opponents have learned, and the Razorbacks did too, there's never enough offense against Oklahoma. You just got to keep scoring, because you're not going to be able to hold them down for all that long. And they are sending a message here in the first inning.
Well, and I think that's the message, you know, you just mentioned. It doesn't matter your opponent, no matter what the expectations are, any team, but of course, obviously, especially against a team like Oklahoma, you just can never have too big of a lead. And so I think they will use that heading into this postseason, and it could be something that was a great lesson learned before it really hurt them.
So Arkansas bases loaded as it's a visit to the circle from St. Louis pitching coach Maxine Rodriguez. But Arkansas did not have an ideal start to their SEC calendar either. First 2 series, they dropped 5 of their first 6 games. And Courtney Deifel, we don't know exactly what she said. Her players said, oh, we can't repeat that. Courtney Deifel said, I'm sure you understand what I said. But it was basically lighting them up. Is this the kind of season we want to have? And since then, the results speak for themselves.
Well, the idea is they really responded, and you're not totally sure. And she said, I don't know if other teams in the past would have, but this team, they did.
Carly Davison goes first pitch hunting, and that's an RBI single. It's 5-0 Razorbacks. They have batted around here in the first inning. 5 of the first 9 come in to score. Some walks helping them along the way, and it's back to the top. The second plate appearance of the inning for Reagan Johnson.
And this is where you have a power slapper in Johnson to where she can hit it gap to gap, because normally in a situation with bases loaded, you're not thinking having to slap her up is ideal. But in this situation, she's really thinking outside, left center gap, inside, turn it to the right center gap.
Well, you said it in her first at bat of the inning. And when she's up there, something her dad passed along to her. He's trying to take the pitcher's head off with what she's doing and sending the ball right back through the origin.
Well, and I've really felt like slappers are such an important part to the game when they have such great bat control and they have the speed, because they don't have to perfectly square it up. But I also have found that some slappers are really better soft slappers and others are better at hard slapping. It's great when you can do both. I'm sure she can, but they tend to be, you know, one way or the other where they're more confident.
That's a liner to short, throw to third, double play. They lost at home in Supers in 21, in 22, and then in 2023 in regionals, they got eliminated. A couple of losses to Oregon. Last year, losses to Villanova and Arizona, and the season came to an end before they wanted it to.
Well, do you think analytics assistant coach Matt Michael is telling them that percentage? Like, that's what I want to know.
Yes, but then I also am curious what the reaction is too.
Hey guys, just so you know, the odds are ever in our favor.
Certainly are when you score 5 runs in the first inning.
Yes.
The numbers guru, Matt Michael, certainly helps them out a lot with the defense. When we were talking with left fielder Reagan Kramer, center fielder Reagan Johnson yesterday, and they kind of just looked at each other and they're like, yeah, we get a lot of information. And they like it, but you know, they gave an example of like preseason. Okay, in this situation, runners at first and second, where does this outfielder throw 73% of the time? And it's like, what?
And they just gave the confused look, like, and just shake your head and walk away.
But the results speak for themselves. The fielding percentage on this team is tremendous this year to go along with the offense. And oh yeah, the pitching, as the cleanup hitter Jane Kineski goes down on strikes. 3 strikeouts in the first 4 batters for Peyton Burnham.
Well, Burnham is going to come inside and that low rise ball just on the hands to where it does not look like it's going to be good, and they get the ring out.
Down the right field line, on the run. There's Wyckoff. 5 up and 5 down. This is a luxury too for a team to have a starter, because you come into this in this game, you're the national seed, and within the bracket, you're number 1 versus the number 4 team, St. Louis, which had to get an auto qualifier to get into the NCAA tournament. To not have to pitch your ace in this first game, because that's how confident you are in Burnham to get the job done.
Yeah, and I think the reality is any team that wants to win it all, you're going to have top performances by the staff. And I think it's huge when you have a freshman who's been able to come on the scene like Burnham and be able to balance Robin Heron. And they obviously have Berline as well and Cam Harrison. But really, it's been Robin Heron and Peyton Burnham has done most of the heavy lifting this year.
Heron there in the dugout, the junior from Tampa, second team All-SEC this year. One of her best games this season, a career-high 16 strikeouts in an 8-inning win against Tennessee. So we will see her tomorrow. Chloe Ryan just out in front on a 2-1 pitch.
Yeah, she hit that ball a long way foul. Usually defensively you're like, that's just a long strike. And now with 2-2, see if Burnham can get her to chase one.
Ryan out in front just a bit again, but McDowell handles it over it. The Women's College World Series returns to Oklahoma City, and the action begins Thursday, May 29th, noon Eastern, live on ESPN. For more information on the Women's College World Series, go to NCAA.com, the official online home for all 90 NCAA championships. Here at Bogle Park, Fayetteville, Arkansas, the home of the Razorbacks, a 5-0 advantage over the Billikens of St. Louis University, champions of the Atlantic 10 Conference Tournament, their first trip to the NCAAs. So the Billikens, one of a handful of teams making their first appearance ever in the NCAA tournament this year. Good number, 5 first-timers this year. Belmont, Mercer, North Florida, and Santa Clara. Reagan Kramer, second inning, second trip to the plate. She flied out to right in the first.
Yeah, and head coach Christy Canoyer, a former player herself, and you know, just really so proud of these athletes. I think for her, just this program that she has led, you could kind of tell like she had felt that this moment was coming, and this was the year that they were going to do it. They had a win streak of 15.
Second ball hit to the right side by Kramer. This time it finds its way through, getting past Abby Ulsis.
And so just, you know, just how proud she was. And you look at what she's done, and they were able to win that title, and it is their first appearance like you've mentioned, but 15th season, and really Abby Mallow is that star that we've been talking about. And you could tell these athletes also, like, they want to win for her as well.
Now Bree Ellis, her first swing here in the game after her first plate appearance, did not yield any swing-worthy pitches. And they know on the St. Louis staff, it's not hard throwers, it's not pitchers who are going to blow you away with their stuff. They want to work low, down and away to Ellis, and at least minimize whatever damage she's capable of doing. 26 home runs for Bree Ellis, tied for the SEC single-season record.
Well, and sometimes I think as well, to be able to know that you were able to face this type of a hitter, and if you got her out, you know, this time we're seeing them potentially going right at her, and they just were outside, knuckleball, drop ball, curve ball, just not able to catch that corner. That pitch right over the heart of the plate. It was a knuckleball, so I think that's maybe what paused Bree Ellis.
Not something you see all the time?
Yeah, maybe.
Three and two to Ellis. Nation's leader in OBP, in slugging, and the walks, a big factor as well. Now 59 walks. 58 during the regular season. We're second most in the country. Second most homers this year, too. And the 3-2 lofted left field. But the ballpark holds it, and so does Natalie Sullivan.
And Ellis just missing that ball, and that's just her not even getting much of it, and that's how far it carries, almost to the left field fence. A nice piece of pitching by Taylor Hockman.
Yeah, keeping Ellis a little bit off balance. Now the task is to do the same against Courtney Day. Her thought last year she was done with softball. She took a teaching and coaching job at Tarkington High School in Cleveland, Texas. She's from Pearland, Texas. She was not only the head softball coach, she was a math teacher. She said, I love math. I just didn't realize I didn't like teaching it all that much. She said, I'm a lot better at understanding it than I am teaching it to other people. I hear you. I had trouble with the understanding part. I didn't get to the teaching part. We were talking about that actually with some of the Billikens players, because you got some absolute academic all-stars. Taylor Hockman in the circle. She's a major in education and math, a 3.77 GPA. I admitted, of course this is well in the past now, the only math class I took in college, all of the tests were open textbook, and I got a C.
No, they're very smart, and you love that, because really, like, these student athletes, I think sometimes we forget about the student part. They don't, because obviously they're in class all the time, but really that is such a huge part of their experience, and they have such a high standard.
That's ball 4 to Courtney Day, so she is aboard for the second time with another free pass. 5-0 Arkansas, bottom 2. We have seen some lopsided scores around the country today in this first day of action. Notably, Duke was a 12-0 winner over Howard. Tennessee put up 17 against Miami, Ohio. Nebraska scored 10, allowing 2 against UConn. Clemson, a 10-2 winner over USC Upstate, Aaron McWhorter Stadium. Texas scored 10 runs. And Oklahoma right now, at last check, up 7-0 over Boston University. How about Southeast Louisiana holding it close there with LSU? Santa Clara, even with your alma mater, Arizona.
Yeah, I mean, it's postseason. Like, everybody is bringing their very best, right? This is what everybody is living for, those moments, and these teams just get opportunities to stay in those close games. You never know what might happen late in the game.
The 9th matchup between Arkansas and St. Louis, and the Razorbacks are 8-0 all time against the Billikens. Last time they played a doubleheader back in 2018, which was a sweep by the Hogs. Wyckoff 2-2, past the Defensive Player of the Year in the A-10, Chloe Ryan. And the throw in from center field is off target. Wyckoff has her second RBI single, 6-0 Razorbacks.
I really just like the at-bats that these Hogs are having, like really just patient, waiting for a good pitch to hit, and then staying through the ball. That is really nicely placed outside corner by Hockman, but we see Wyckoff do exactly what she should. She doesn't do too much. She gets her barrel to the ball and just takes it back up the middle. Even shortstop Chloe Ryan was playing deep and was shaded toward the middle and still got up the middle.
Ryan helped finish off the first inning with a double play. That's playable in right field. Day tags up and heads over to third. But the line drive to Chloe Ryan at shortstop that ended the first inning was their 26th double play of the year. That set a new school record for the Billikens.
And that's just it. A lot of times you might be seen as way above your head when you're facing Arkansas, team at the top of the SEC, but you look at those numbers and that's what it comes down to. We talked about Mallow and her 80 RBIs. We're talking about those double plays. Like, that's playing the game the way it's supposed to be played at that high level, and shows why they're here in the postseason.
As you're lauding the Razorbacks' approach at the plate today, is it difficult, or does it just take patience to wait for a pitch you want to see when a pitcher has not had her best control?
Yeah, I think really it's patience and making sure you are picking your strike zone. And sometimes it's harder when, you know, you're used to seeing pitches that are in the high 60s, low 70s, and sometimes it can be harder when you see, you know, different speeds and the knuckleball that you're not used to seeing. But at the same time, we know that they've done their homework and they are prepared for this moment.
No.
Yeah, I think there's just some of those matchups like you're mentioning that people really want to see. Think of Stanford being there and knowing what it takes to get to the Women's College World Series, the success they've had under Jess Allister. So it'll be interesting to see what happens there.
And Virginia Tech has the nation's home run leader in Corey McMillan, who hit 30 during the regular season. Here, Bree Ellis at first base, second in that race with 26.
Yeah, those numbers that they're putting up are just phenomenal.
0-2, right to Ellis. And 7 straight retired for Peyton Burnham. We talk about looking all around the country. The best way to stay on top of everything is 7 innings live. Take you to the best coverage, and it's all available on the ESPN app. Every game, every big moment on the road to the Women's College World Series. Chris Budden, Tori Vidalis, Tara Henry with the coverage here on day number 1. And tomorrow, it only gets crazier. 3 games at every site tomorrow. And by the end of Saturday, only 2 teams will remain at every regional, and 1 team emerges from the Supers. First trip to the plate for Ali Marietta. And there are not 1 but 2 Mariettas on this team, both from Pittsburgh, Kansas. Her sister Ashley, also a junior outfielder on the team. So St. Louis to Fayetteville, Arkansas, geographically, pretty pleasing outcome for St. Louis to get sent here. However, their journey was a little bit different. So it should have been about 5.5 hours on the bus. Instead, it turned into 10 for the Billikens. Problem number 1, no air conditioning on the bus. Problem number 2, a tire exploded on the way. So they said, you know what? It made for some great social content on TikTok. It's good memories. One of 5 first-time teams into the field. But it doesn't make it any easier. You know, one of the teams that we saw on social media this year was the Binghamton Bearcats getting sent from Central New York to Eugene, Oregon. And they had to, was it Southwest Airlines, I think, tweeted Southwest Airlines to hold their flight to make sure they could make their connection. And that is not easy, the 3 time zone switch, let alone the stress of running through an airport.
Yeah, they talked just about that journey, how they left at 4 a.m. Pacific and it was 10 p.m. and they still weren't at their hotel. So a little bit of a rough journey across the country.
3-2 is ball 4. So Ali Marietta with a keen eye is the first base runner for St. Louis. Carson Janey, the sophomore from Columbia, Illinois, just about 20 minutes away from the SLU campus. She was huge for them in the A-10 tournament. A pair of game-winning hits, a 10th inning solo home run against Dayton, their big rival, and then an 8th inning walk-off against Fordham in game 1 of the championship series because the Billikens needed to win 2. Shallow left center field. Johnson angles over. And Janey's retired. I think one thing you can see from now first trip through the lineup for St. Louis is they're facing a level of pitcher who is going to bring it better velocity, better movement on the balls. They've been late getting around to a lot of pitches.
Yeah, I agree. The hardest hit was Chloe Ryan. She pulled that ball foul really hard and then was able to hit a really hard ground ball to third baseman Ella McDowell. But I agree with you. It's just a different challenge, you know, and I know that they're coming off that high, winning conference championship, but I think it's just about making quick adjustments, and I think right now is going to be the most important. It's the second time through the lineup. You've got to make those adjustments.
Addie Duttlinger, pinch runner over at first base. She spells Marietta. And they're a 2 away. Goes back to the top of the lineup. The leadoff hitter, Natalie Sullivan. So today, her 216th consecutive start of her career. And a 21 on-game base streak. Her on-base game streak on the line as well. She's hit in 15 of her last 17. players she gave credit to for helping make the transition easy to college was Gabby Kowalik, the sister of former Kentucky standout and now Texas Tech assistant Kayla Kowalik, who's also playing professionally. And they did actually square off with one another during their college career too. The Kowalik sisters did, because we asked Natalie, you know, the jump from high school to college is supposed to be hard, and yet you've been in the starting lineup ever since day one. And there's always somebody who's helped you out along the way.
Yeah, she just talked about just seeing the leadership and really like coming underneath that in Kowalik, Gabby, like you mentioned, Kayla's sister, and just the importance of that. And I think you have to, it helps so much to see it, to be embraced, and then just to start following in those footsteps. Balls that looked like it really could be a potential game changer. They're having fun in the outfield there. But then with that, they played really solid defense and ended up being able to pull it out and just gave them enough time to bring those runs across. And ultimately, Indiana's defense kind of just flopped.
And it looked like Taylor Minnick, the left fielder for IU, was going to single-handedly swing them to a victory. Her first 2 at-bats were 2-run homers. She had a career-best 11 total bases in the game, but ultimately not enough to get the job done, as the Hoosiers had to go through 3 different pitchers in the 6th inning, and that ended up being the ball game.
Well, and they were able to chase Ruby Malin early in that game after a couple home runs, and Riley Crandall came in, gave up a 3-run home run, but after that, she just absolutely shut it down the rest of the game and gave her Cowgirls some time to get those runs back.
8-9-1 for Courtney Deifel's Razorbacks here in the 3rd. Natalia Rijo to Natalie Sullivan, 1 away. Carly Davison coming over from Utah, first-year transfer, spent 2 years in Salt Lake City. And a good number of connections between that Ute squad and this year's Razorback squad. She was teammates with current Arkansas GA Mariah Lopez in 2023. That was a huge year for Utah. They went to Supers, and the hitting coach there her freshman year 2 years ago was DJ Gasso, now on staff for Courtney Deifel. And end of the bat, Flair Sullivan on the move. 2 hands, 2 outs.
Yeah, you see those moves, and that was a nice job by Sullivan in left field, running a long way to cover the grass and being able to keep that ball from hitting. And right now, having those first 2 outs, first time we've seen that this game.
And what's been interesting, too, is that all 8 of the outs have been in the air.
Yeah.
There was even a double play, but it was a line drive to short and then a throw to third. And Johnson, it's a 1-2-3 with some storms at home. You know, some dogs get a little trepidation when the thunder starts to roll.
Well, we were talking to her, and she actually talked. There's the little pup having a great time here, relaxing at the ballpark, but the team just was like, oh, Nico, as soon as we brought it up.
Dogs, you can't have a bad time when there's a dog around.
They make everything better.
And this is a really tight-knit group, because you get into the power conferences and the rosters are 22, 25, and of course that is going to change too with all of the ongoing legislation and rulemaking around college sports. This is a roster of under 20 players. So everybody's got to be able to bring it every day. But you also know that everybody is going to be tight with everybody because it's not a huge group.
Yeah, and you kind of felt that, and we talked about Abby Mallow, and she had said about her pitcher, Taylor Hockman, she said, when I was hitting and we were going to win, like I was like, I got to hit this, because I could just see her crying.
Abby Ulsis on the ground is short, and Rijo retires Ulsis. 2 ground ball outs for Ulsis. And I thought that was so nice to hear.
Yeah, she just didn't, because she's a senior. Basically, she's like, you're my senior battery mate, and I know how much you care, and I know this is it. And she was just like, in my mind, I thought, no, I'm gonna get this hit so we can continue our season and extend it.
So Abby Mallow, 80 runs driven in, 2nd most in the country. This year she set school records, career home runs in a single season. And by the way, the 80 runs batted in, she broke her own record by 26. chopper third base. 2 up, 2 down here in the 4th. And she's still got another year to go, just a junior.
I think that's just important to keep this legacy going. And once you've reached this level, like the bar is set, and now you've experienced it, and you add that on, and she ends up being a senior that carries on the tradition.
Jane Koneski is a senior from Waterloo, Illinois, about 30 minutes south of St. Louis. A valedictorian of her high school class, and last year got her bachelor's degree in psychology. This year working on graduate studies in public health and social work.
And you just can't settle, right? Like sometimes it's that idea, and it really is kind of a mode and a mentality of just, you know, not cruising. And I think it's important, and I think that's what she's kind of saying, keeping the urgency even with a big lead.
Reagan Kramer to start it off. She's 1 for 2. She's hit 2 home runs this year, and perhaps most impressive is something that nobody can say. A grand slam against Carlin Pickens of Tennessee, who recorded the fastest pitch ever in college softball this year, and she did it in the SEC tournament. But that's not all. That pitch ended up on the SEC Network set out in right center field, and they gave her the ball because she joined them out there for an interview post-game. And so she said she's still got that ball in her locker.
Yeah, she was happy talking about having that ball and just the importance of it. And it's just a moment that you will never forget. Like, nothing can take that moment from you.
3-1 here, 44 walks for her this year. 3rd highest total in the Southeastern Conference. And she takes another. Now the list started at 25, and it has just been narrowed down to 10 for the USA Softball Collegiate Player of the Year. That is stiff competition on that list, but the numbers for Bree Ellis put her in a class all by herself.
Yeah, I agree. I think she's just really a special athlete who plays both sides of the field so well, and just her numbers as a hitter. Like Coach Deifel talks about, she literally just said she's an elite hitter. Like, you can't fake that. You can't make that happen if it's not there. She absolutely is. And then you add her work ethic. We talked to her. She talked about still kind of figuring out what works and doesn't work as well for her. And I just think the sky's the limit. She's going to keep getting better.
No fewer than 14 home runs in any year of her career. 26 this year, tied for the SEC single season record. The SEC Player of the Year, 2nd player to win that after KB Sides won it 3 seasons ago. Today her 225th start. 2 years at Auburn, and here in year number 2 in Fayetteville. I think it's really inspiring too to hear a player talk about she spent those 2 years at Auburn, wasn't in a good headspace, went out and wanted to find a coach who respected her for the player that she is, but also didn't let her sit back and do her own thing and say, well, you know what you're doing is good enough, that's fine, but continue to push her, and she has absolutely found that here.
Well, what I love as well, and you look at those numbers, and of course, Jocelyn Allo is a name everyone knows. She's right there. Jen Yee in 2010, look at how long, and nobody's putting up these numbers. That's how special Bree Ellis is. But I love that she was talking about, instead of, there's her parents right there. We'll have to definitely talk about them, Mike, but I just think she's just special. And her mindset and mentality with it, and what I loved is she talked to us a lot about how, you know what, this year I did not come in with any personal goals. In the past, yes, but if I didn't reach them, I'd feel like I didn't do well enough. And this year instead, I'm focusing all on team goals, and now she's surpassing all her own personal goals.
And she has her 2nd walk, 2nd of the inning as well. It's 1st and 2nd. And her mom, Molly, has an Excel spreadsheet. She's sitting next to Tara Talmadge there, who covers the university, both on video and audio platforms. Her mom, Molly, keeps an Excel spreadsheet of every game Bree has played since she was about 10 years old. Tracks it all. That's a lot of home runs.
Yeah, I just want to know, like, is there any other mom out there that's done that? Because, like, to me, like, that is amazing. just how invested. And I love Bree basically said, and then she'll show me when I think I'm not doing well. Then, no, remember when you did this? So she has it all, the proof.
Olsis over to her left, can't get a grip on it. Bases are loaded, and nobody out. That is an error for Abby Olsis at second base.
And this is a situation you really need to get some runs on the board. You got bases loaded and nobody out, and this is your opportunity ultimately to put yourself in a situation to end this game after 5 if you can bring enough runs across.
And we're getting some kind of pinch running substitutions here. 2 of them, as a matter of fact. That'll take Ellis and Day off the base paths. So Casey Wood is the pinch runner at second base. Sophomore from just up the road in Bentonville, Arkansas, out of Bentonville High School. And Ramsey Walker, pinch runner at first base. Freshman out of Shreveport, Louisiana. Smart move here from Courtney Deifel. You're up 6-0, 1 base hit, could make it run rule territory, and you get some players onto the field for high leverage experience in the postseason, so that when they do need to be called on when it's a close game, they're not going to say, oh, I'm nervous because this is my first time doing it.
Yeah, well, I think you're going to see them go to their bench in situations, especially later in games, no matter close game or not, with speed. I think that's the teams at the top, they have that type of depth in the dugout waiting to be used.
Hockman's pitch is gapped and deep. 1 hop off the base of the wall. This may empty the bases. It's a green light. The relay throw is overthrown. A 3-run double for Kaylee Wyckoff. And it's run rule territory in Fayetteville.
How about having a day? Wyckoff comes up with bases loaded. This pitch is over the outside part of the fence. She's ready, knowing that Hockman needs to pitch to her, and elevates it in this situation. That's what you want to do. You want to hit the green. That ball goes all the way to the left center fence and clears the bases. A great piece of hitting, taking the outside pitch to that left center wall. How about having a day and being 3 for 3 with 5 RBIs?
A career high for her. It's one thing to say it, but it's another to display it. The fact that Bree Ellis has walked twice today. She swung the bat sparingly, hasn't seen many pitches, and they're still able to be on the cusp of a win in dominant fashion.
Yeah, and also, you know, talked about Courtney Day backing up Bree Ellis, but I think Wyckoff is another piece to that puzzle. I mean, to be able to go too deep behind her, you know you can protect her, and that's a great start in postseason.
Ella McDowell skies it to shallow left field. Sullivan's there for out number 1. 5 batters into this inning, and the first out recorded by the St. Louis defense.
Well, right after Coach Deifel said, you know, I'd like us to make something happen, her team responds.
And we're going to see if it's an A-B situation pitching-wise for St. Louis. It's Isabel Royal coming into the circle. 9-0 Arkansas. St. Louis to a pitching change. Isabel Royal takes over for Taylor Hockman with 1 out, 1 on. And here's the sophomore from Sun Prairie, Wisconsin. Just on the outskirts of Madison there. And she's coming off of a nice performance in the Atlantic 10 Championship. She threw a 10-inning complete game, 2-hitter in an elimination game against Dayton.
When they really feel like she's throwing her best, and that's what you want. You want to peak at the end of the season, had a really good freshman year, and then felt like she just started out rocky in this sophomore campaign. But it just seems like as of late she's kind of settled down again, figured it out, and has been working well for them. And Taylor Hockman watching on, a senior, knowing that if they lose this game, and they have one more and the season ends, but it's not just a season. You get to this point of the season, it's about careers, right? And she's just done so well, and such an important piece to the puzzle for St. Louis to be here in postseason. And I just know she's going to take what she's done today. If they lose tomorrow, come back and give everything she has again.
Swing and a miss, strike three. Royal gets the strikeout. 10th time that the Razorbacks have worked a 3-ball count. And she pulls the string there against Kennedy Miller.
And that's a big pitch in that moment, being able to locate that changeup and keeping that low.
Shortstop Atalia Rijo, 0 for 1. With a walk, she comes through with an RBI single. It's a clean 10 on the board.
And that's a nice piece of hitting in that situation. Taking the ball up the middle, RBI. Runners in scoring position. It's about not leaving them stranded. And so good piece of hitting there, not trying to do too much, just bring across the run.
Carly Davison, the 8th batter of the inning. So you know we get to the end of the season for any sport, and you start to look at, okay, who's going to be into the postseason? Who's going to be out? You have a blind resume, Team A versus Team B, this RPI, that strength of schedule. If you were to say, Arkansas has a game where Bree Ellis and Courtney Day have combined for 0 hits, are they going to win 10-0? You go, there's no chance. And yet, here they are in the postseason, putting together a complete team effort. And by the way, Peyton Burnham hasn't given up a base hit. So this is, by an objective measure, their best game in program history in the postseason.
Well, and Coach Steifel saying, you know what, a win is a win in postseason. But I don't care what anyone says. You like to see these clean wins as you get your start, because the expectation is there, but you still have to go out and you have to play your best softball. And so you do like to see that they are putting up the runs. They're doing what they told us yesterday makes this team special and different from years past. They're playing free, and also they're getting production throughout the entire lineup. They literally said, we feel like in the past it might have been a couple players that we leaned on too heavily.
That's out here in her early career, but has the opportunity 3 outs away against St. Louis, looking to put Arkansas into the winner's bracket tomorrow against Oklahoma State. By every measure, a phenomenal year from the former Oregon Gatorade Player of the Year at Sheldon High School in Eugene, Oregon. The daughter of an All-American. 13 wins this year for Burnham, the most by an Arkansas freshman in 8 seasons. And on her 19th birthday, on May 3rd, she threw a complete game shutout against LSU and is now 2 outs away from a no-hitter.
And I think you do. You get to postseason after going through the grueling fight throughout SEC play, and you carry that much more confidence. I know you're only a freshman by this time. You're basically a sophomore. The expectation is there, and you see her stepping up.
Ground ball outs in a row, got him in order on the middle infield and over toward third base. Last time in the 4th, started out striking out 3 of the first 4 and has 4 in total.
Well, and Chloe Ryan had the hardest contact off of Burnham in this game. Fouled off a long foul ball deep out over the foul left field line. Oh.
So she's over to first base. It was not a perfect game on the line here because there was a one-out walk against Allie Marietta, who's on deck here with Anna Christ coming up. So it's not as though that induces any particular pressure there, seeing a runner over at first base.
Yeah, and in that situation, still setting up Ryan, who had fouled it off pretty hard and then hit a hard ground ball to third. But I like that setup, going outside away and then coming in hard, obviously a little bit too far inside, but nice idea to set that hitter up.
Pinch runner Sophia Benti at first base, the sophomore from Swansea, Illinois, whose primary role this year in 24 games was in this exact spot as a pinch runner. Anna Christ 0 for 1. Well, similarly to what Chloe Ryan did earlier in this game. Solid contact, but a little bit too far out in front. So it's 1 ball, 1 strike. A win for Arkansas. They match up tomorrow against Oklahoma State. Winner of that game plays Sunday, needing just 1 win to be the regional champions here in Fayetteville. St. Louis, a drop into the losers bracket, squares them up against Indiana.
Oh, really nice movement on that off-speed pitch that drops. I think if you cannot just take some speed off of it, but also get some movement out of it, it's more effective.
Strikeout number 5. May very well be the penultimate out of this game for the freshman Peyton Burnham. So that sets us up for the winner's bracket game tomorrow, where you'd imagine we'll see Ruby Malin again in the circle for Oklahoma State. And then Robin Herron, who's been able to watch and wait today, second team All-SEC starting pitcher on the Arkansas side.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's the matchup that we are very likely to see. And I expect to see also a different Ruby Malin tomorrow that you're used to seeing. But I'll tell you, she has to come with her best, because Arkansas, they're ready, they're composed, they're playing well right now, and again, 1 through 9 throughout the lineup.
And if she gives up a home run 2 batters in, then Bree Ellis will be the next one coming up. So it's got to be different tomorrow. 1-2. It's in for a called third strike. First college no-hitter, and the Razorbacks win it 10-0.
What a time to bring out the no-hitter. And you see the excitement from her teammates, hugs all around. What a great performance, and this is the time you want to be at your best, and we saw that from Burnham tonight.
A full team effort from Arkansas. They put up 10 runs, and they did it without any base hits from Bree Ellis and Courtney Day in the 3 and 4 spots. So it sets them up tomorrow for what should be a splendid showdown against Oklahoma State. They've played 15 times. Cowgirls lead 8-7. This will be their first matchup since 2021. Final score in that game, 12-11. So get the fireworks ready. That game noon Central, and Indiana and St. Louis will follow.